One and done Dallas Stars edition. Now, we're in a very weird point, of course, right now in time. But the Dallas Stars are in the Stanley Cup final. As of time of recording, they are down 3-2. They win last night. Corey Perry, the double overtime winner. So it puts me into a pretty weird spot here where it's like, okay, this team in real life is able to at least get to the Cup final. What am I going to be able to do with them? And of course, I have the liberty to change the lineup if I need to. Let's take a look at said lineup because there are some differences, of course, with this team and the best version of this team that we can put together. The top line is going to be Jamie Benn, Joe Pavelski, and Roope Hintz due to chemistry. Of course, that's always a factor when we start off an episode of this is what the hell is the coach going to look like? Obviously, if you watch the last episode with Columbus, we don't always get a good draw with head coaches, but Ben Pavelski Hintz will be the top line. Second line, the previously aforementioned Corey Perry is with Tyler Seguin and Alex Radulov. A third line of Blake Como, Jason Dickinson, and Denis Gurianov. And a fourth line, Andrew Cogliano, Radek Faksa, and Matthias Janmark. So obviously, there are some people missing, right? Kiviranta, as we affectionately know him on this channel as Totally Spanish from like 4 years ago, 5 years ago even. Obviously, are we looking at an overall boost? Sure. But am I going to make him a 78 because of one postseason run? No. That's just not how I upgrade players. That's well established. So, we don't have him in the lineup. Justin Dowling was close. He's the next highest rated forward. And then obviously defensively, I haven't taken a look at it yet, but Taylor Fedun's on the outs. And Joel Hanley, who's actually scored in the Stanley Cup final. Of course, we don't have him that highly rated either because you look at his history over the past 3 seasons, it makes sense. But this is what our defense looks like. It's John Klingberg and Jamie Alexiak, Stephen Johns with Miro Heiskanen, and Andre Sekera with Esa Lindell. Now here is the issue and why we only have +1s. John Klingberg does not fit this goddamn team. So this is one of those instances where it's like, okay, do we get someone who's a better fit, or do we just roll with an 87 overall with a 1 overall boost or no other further boost? And the further issue with that is Miro Heiskanen has the same exact chemistry. So yeah, it's going to be tough to balance things out with those two, but hopefully we can get the job done. Goaltending-wise, he might not be the starter right now, and I think it's clearly because he's not healthy. Honestly, he had a bit of a rough season at times, but Ben Bishop has still been one of the NHL's best over the past 3 seasons, hence the high rating. And Anton Khudobin, a rating that really reflects that he is one of the top backup goaltenders in the league right now. And to be honest, I think heading into next season, we're going to see him at an 82, an 83, and 84 in my custom rosters because he is likely to get a starting job this upcoming season. Where he goes, who knows? But yeah, Dobby's going to do pretty damn well for himself. So that is the team that we are starting off with here in this one and done challenge. Let's take a look at the line fits, or not the line fits. We took a look at the line fits and the scheme fits. Let's take a look at the trade value. Easy for me to say. And the good thing is we have 2 very, very valuable assets to use here. Jason Robertson and Ty Dellandrea are going to help me get pretty much anybody that I want, which is fantastic. And then, of course, defensively, there is Thomas Harley. Don't call me Harley Thomas at the draft. Thomas Harley, who also has a decent amount of value. And Jake Ottinger. So out of all the teams that we've used so far, this Dallas team might just have the most assets to use when trading, if we even need the trade. Who's to say, necessarily? We're going to see how this roster does, of course, over the first 2 seasons, and then take it from there and make adjustments if need be. But I am hopeful, very, very hopeful, that this team will be as good as advertised throughout this sim so that we don't really have to make that many changes. It honestly could be the case. I mean, so far so good in the preseason for what the hell that's worth, which the answer is not much. That is the answer. Not much. I'm excited to see how we do. To be honest, man, I'm trying to think. At this point, obviously, I want to talk about the Stanley Cup Final, but I'm tempted to make a second video in talking about it. I honestly thought by the time this video came out, or by the time I was ready to record this video, that we would be talking about the Tampa Bay Lightning. being Stanley Cup champions, because that's really how it was looking. And I suppose I'll talk about it a little bit here instead of in a separate video. We'll see. And of course, I'll talk about the Cup final once we are beyond it. But it's been interesting, for Tampa and Dallas, because I mentioned in the preview videos that for Tampa, it's like, okay, just keep doing what you're doing and see if Dallas can stop you. And for the most part, Dallas hasn't necessarily been able to stop them. I mean, Dallas at times putting up goals in the Cup final, but Tampa able to score that many more. It's a bit of a problem. And then you look at, say what you want about the officiating, which I put out a tweet the night of Game 4, where there was the chop to the balls at center ice, and both the guys, Braden Point got an embellishment penalty. I mentioned this that night, and it really is surprising how many people still act surprised. The tweet, and I'm paraphrasing here, as we're going to sim an extra month, by the way, because we're doing very well. Paraphrasing, but the tweet was basically, how are people still surprised? Anytime there's a bad call, essentially all you should do is post a DJ Khaled another one GIF, because that's the expectation. I mean, I got a lot of haters, I guess. I guess hate might be a bit strong, but as a Bruins fan, people be like, well, 2011, the Bruins are cheap as fuck. And it's like, well, yeah, that's, if officiating is going to be that bad, then yeah, you line step habitually. Look at the St. Louis Blues and last year's playoffs. Not really any different from what the Bruins did in 2011, is it? And no, you know why? Because it works. So when the officiating, we're going to sim another month, by the way, because we're crushing it. When the officiating has been consistently bad, how can you be surprised? Or even outraged? Like, how could they do so bad? Like, of course it's bad. It's garbage. But the point being is that Tampa's been much more effective on the power play, which has led them to, having the 3-1 series lead at that point. And then obviously last night it was a little bit different. Tampa just couldn't bury their chances. So, I predicted Tampa to win the Cup final, and I'm intrigued to see if that still happens. I said I wasn't rooting for one team in particular, but I had a feeling it was going to happen. Now that Dallas is the underdog, having to come back from 3-1 down to try and win, I am kind of rooting for Dallas at this point. Speaking of rooting for Dallas, so there you go. Some quick thoughts for me on the Cup final. Of course, pay attention to the channel. We'll talk about the Cup final once it's done and dusted. And I should have another video out alongside this one talking about some other hockey subjects that, people have been asking me my opinion about. That said, 30, 16, and 4 as of February 1st. We've had no reason to make any changes so far. We are at least 4 points clear over the Avalanche, atop the division. So things are looking very good for us indeed. Jamie Benn is absolutely crushing it. Joe Pavelski absolutely crushing it. Rupe Hintz isn't the ideal first-line option next to them. The argument here is, do we get somebody better, or do we just allow Rupe Hintz to be a good, I guess accenting piece would be the word, while Pavelski and Benn light the world on fire. Second line, Corey Perry, not exactly good enough for the second line. Sagan on 37 points have been a bit better. Radulov's been a bit better too. So Perry and Hintz, there is the argument to certainly find improvements. 16 points there for Como. Dickinson doing pretty well. 20 points for Gurionov. And in the fourth line, doing very well. Radek Faxon and Matthias Janmark are too good for the fourth line, but they do work really well together. So the question is, do we mess with the team, or do we just keep it as it is? John Klingberg doing very well. Alexiak, of course, takes penalty minutes, but that comes with the territory. Very happy with the defense. The only thing we can do, good lord, the goaltending right now. The only thing we can do is bring in improvements. It's a tough call, because we can bring in improvements in the top 6, but is that going to mess with the team and how well they're performing? It may very well do just that. Now, the thing is here, because we don't really need as many improvements, I mean, we could talk about bringing in a depth defenseman, or we go all out and bring in 1, maybe 2 game-changing forwards, but particularly 1. And if there was ever going to be, an episode of this, and there's Patrick Hornquist on Florida, if there was ever going to be an episode of this where we make a play for someone like Conor McDavid, this is the episode. So it could very well happen. Jeff Petrie and his new contract, Duchesne, Ekholm, Turris, Montreal, and Nashville both struggling and wanting to make those changes. I wanted to see if there was a random elite level forward that was available, and unfortunately, there is not going to be, at least at a discounted rate. So certainly the argument is keep the team the same. Keep the team the same, or bring in 2 great options into the top 6. But like I said, that could backfire. You know, you look at out of the 4 members of the top 6 that are performing well, and the 2 that are a little bit down are the 2 that are doing that well because the other 2 aren't taking away points. You know, they're doing all right, but they're not killing it. I just don't know. And the problem is, there isn't necessarily a change that needs to be made in the bottom 6 for the forwards either. So if we make a trade, is Perry involved? Is Hintz involved? I'm not exactly sure what we want to do here. So let's look at forwards. I want to look at 90 overall forwards. There's going to be a very, very select few. 11 forwards for me are in the elite of the elite class. Steven Stamkos, huh? Good old Steven Stamkos. How's everybody doing in this line? Stammer doesn't necessarily fit. Crosby would apparently fit the second line. Draisaitl would fit the second line. Malkin, Marchand fits the top line. McKinnon the second line. Kucherov and McDavid apparently don't fit. I mean, obviously, like I said, if there was one episode where Conor McDavid would be the option, this is it. And I think now might be the right time to pull the trigger on that. Like I said, I am worried about messing up the chemistry within the top 6. But the good thing is I don't necessarily have to trade anybody to make this deal happen, at least not off roster. So Ty Dellandrea will certainly be used. I'm going to hold on to Robertson for the moment. So we're going to look at Ty Dellandrea and we're going to look at Thomas Harley, at least to start things off. Of course, not really expecting that to go through, but I wanted to see if we were somehow close. Now we'll look at our draft picks. First rounder. It's going to take a lot. We're probably going to have to use Ottinger here too. But I do want to nickel and dime this and see if we can get away with a complete steal. Will this go through? Sweeten it just a touch. Oof. Okay, how does Ottinger's trade value compare to Thomas Harley? It's actually a little bit weaker. But if we use Ottinger instead of a first-round pick, it'll go through. So Ty Dellandrea, Thomas Harley, Ottinger, and 2 firsts for Connor McDavid. And we'll also look to bring back Angus Redmond in the deal. Connor McDavid, welcome to Dallas. I told you I was not against going out and getting players who weren't on the trade block. It's just the circumstances needed to make sense. And in this instance, the circumstances made sense. So let's take a look here. We are going to need to send down Angus Redmond. Defensively, we're still good. And now forwards, we have 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm not sure why it's like, hey, you need to do stuff, because I shouldn't have to do stuff. Why did it let that go through if it's saying I'm going to be over the cap now? Are you kidding me? How am I going to be over the cap? What? Did I just like completely blank and not see that we were going to be over the cap because of this? Oh boy. All right, well, the obvious move is to give up Cogliano, and if he makes it, cool. If not, whatever. I'd still apparently be over the cap, and now we'll look at Kiviranta, and we'll also add Como into the deal. There's no way I'd still be over the cap. This has to be glitched. We're just going to auto-fix this and hope I don't lose anybody important. But that seems like it's glitched as hell. That was showing Jason Robertson as being on the roster, which is weird as hell. Alright, let me make sure I didn't lose anybody to waivers. It is showing that we're $3 million over. I didn't notice a red bar on our side though, so that's incredibly weird. But we can obviously trade ourselves out of this. I just need to make sure it didn't make me lose anybody to waivers, and it didn't, so that's good. Good, good, good. Okay, so with that, now the question is, what else do we look to do? Because, again, this team, the defense, looking good. Can't necessarily complain about the defense. Now, it did go best lines, but that's okay, because obviously we had Klingberg, Alexiak, and then Lindell was down here with Sekera. So, defensively, we could look for an insurance policy here, but, again, this team's been good. And then forward-wise, we'll have to figure it out now that certain changes have been made. So did it send anybody down that I care about? It didn't. I don't understand what the hell that was all about, but hey, what are you going to do? So it was Janmark, Faxa, and Cogliano. Let me just say that we are going to... it's got to be Rupe or Perry that gets taken out. And 34 points there for Hintz. And Perry on 28. So let's just say, in theory, we take out Corey Perry for the moment. So Cogliano's there. So this is essentially what the team kind of looked like. At least that top line. So again, Ben and Pavelski doing quite well. Radulov and Sagan are doing pretty well next to one another. So Como on 16 points. He's not quite where I want him to be for a third line option. Again, we kind of look for 30 some odd points. He's on a 26 point pace, whereas Jason Dickinson is on, he's already on 21 points. I think Como is a guy that could get dropped because Cogliano is doing very well with Janmark and Faxa. So I think Rupe keeps his spot in the lineup. Corey Perry is going to get dropped in the lineup a little bit. And then how does McDavid fit in? It's not a great fit with the team, but that's okay. So we could bump Conor up, or we just leave him here with Sagan and Radulov. I might do that. This might be the team for the moment. So like I said, now we need to debate making another trade here, and it could be for another elite forward to just fully replace Hintz and Perry, or it could be for a stud defenseman. This, of course, using Jason Robertson. We still have Tufte we could use, but Jason Robertson's the big piece here, along with our remaining first-round picks, of which we have 4. So, how much more do we change this team? Like I said, defensively, I think the issue here is that defensively we don't have a good depth option. So if I can bring in somebody on defense to not even necessarily play, but just to shore up our chances in case someone's not getting the job done. That way, no disrespect, excuse me, but that way we don't have to rely on Taylor Fadoon. That would be pretty nice. So let's take a look. And it might be crazy to go out and get a high-rated, top 2 defenseman, actually, instead of overall. I will just look at someone who's defined as top 2. It might be crazy to go out and get a player of this caliber and then not play them, but hey, what are you going to do? So we are looking, highest-rated defenseman right now is Carlson. Obviously, Brent Burns is there. And then it really kind of drops off. Obviously, Amira Heiskanen listed as a top 2 as well. So Mark Giordano would be somebody that we could acquire for relatively cheap. Is he on an expiring deal? He's not. The only thing I'm worried about here, along with value, is cap. Someone like Keith Yandel, Morgan Riley. Obviously Pietrangelo is the main shout here because we could hopefully get St. Louis to retain salary. I think it might have to be. There might be some ill will towards Mr. Pietrangelo, being the Blues captain and all, but again, you talk about a perfect fit for the team. He is it. Now, see, all of a sudden now we're listed as being significantly under the cap, so I don't know what the hell is going on. Sometimes, I swear, it just freaks out. So with that, Jason Robertson's obviously going to be used. Now, it's still saying I'd be over the cap, so I'm intrigued. The question from here, then, is who would we give up? Who would we give up? I feel like it would have to be, first and foremost, Blake Como. And then I don't necessarily want to give up Cogliano, but it could happen. Johns, yeah, Mark Faxa, Alexiak. Yeah, it would have to be Cogliano on the fourth line. And now they'd be over the cap for next year. Call it a hunch, I don't think Pietrangelo is going to happen. I don't think he is. I might go look at Mark Giordano, depending on Calgary's cap situation. I'll tell you why. Because I have a feeling the players that we're going to have to add on are going to be a pain in the ass. So let's go 50% retention here, hopefully on Gio, if they can afford it. And again, all of these changes might be completely unnecessary. I can acknowledge that. Calgary would be over the cap. Take out Cogliano. Now we would be over the cap. We might be stuck. We might honestly be stuck in terms of pulling this off, unless we look for someone who's not making any money, which would be either, it would be Cale Makar. And I don't know if we have the value right now after those deals to pull off a trade for Cale Makar. However, I am going to try, because why the hell not? So we'd use Jason Robertson. And how else could we get this deal done? Again, it would just have to be stock up on first round picks. Nope. Yeah, so I think, like I said, defensively, I certainly view it as an area of weakness to not have as much coverage there. And it kind of feels like a waste to have Robertson and not pull off a trade for somebody. But that might be what we're looking at here. I don't think Tufte was worth more than the first. Alright, let me double check here. Yeah, Tufte was worth less than that first round pick. So what exactly can we do here? I mean, it's Giordano, it's Suter, Burns, Yandel, Morgan Riley. Let's take a look here. Yandel doesn't fit. Burns doesn't fit. Riley apparently doesn't fit either. What if we go for Keith Yandel? Mainly because I'm thinking Florida shouldn't be right up against the cap, which they're not. Whereas I don't know if we could get Toronto or San Jose to actually retain salary here. So Keith Yandel on 50%. What else do we have here? We have Jason Robertson. So we'd be over the cap, of course. We're going to add Blake Como into the deal. Man, the numbers just don't work out. And then Cogliano would have to be the other man used. So we would have to sacrifice Cogliano, which would mean moving Justin Dowling in on the fourth line. But to get an insurance policy on defense like Keith Yandel, I think it's worth it. As much as I'd like to keep Cogliano, we just can't do it. Hell, I might trade Cogliano and then try to get him back in our final trade. Maybe on 50% salary. So with that, first rounder. Still not done. We have to hope this goes through with another first rounder. Okay, well, we have our answer then. Unfortunately, with Jason Robertson, I just don't really see the move that we can make here. I mean, you're bringing Connor McDavid on $12 million, and yeah, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a very difficult time finding the follow-up moves that you need to make. So it's rough, but hey, we're going to have to do what we have to do unless there's a second pairing guy like Duncan Keith, Petrie, or Edler. Duncan Keith is going to be my last shot here. And if he doesn't work out for us, then I don't see how anybody else does. Especially, too, for how little he gets paid. It's criminal. So Blake Como, still be over the cap. Andrew Cogliano. Chicago would be over the cap for next year. Are you kidding me? Okay, I mean, I really feel like we've exhausted all of our options here. Especially considering how good of a team we already are. Like, what is possibly the other trade here? Like I said, Petrie's going to, that new contract, it kicks in. We have to have it set up that way. So Pollock, Morrissey, Theodore Trouba, who gets paid the least. I mean, Pollock is an RFA. Let's try, yeah, like I said, I mean, forward-wise, we should be fine. Maybe Ryan Pollock will work for us. Maybe, just maybe. So Cogliano and Como. Islanders would be over the cap. Take out Cogliano, they'd still be over the cap. Jesus. How many more attempts do we make to shore up our defense? That's the question. And I genuinely don't. You know what? We're good. We're good. I'm calling it right now. We're good. Screw it. And if we don't win, then you know what? You can say, hey, should have been more patient to try and find the trade. But at this point, screw it. This is the team for the moment. Let's move forward. Like I said, Blake Como, the one sacrifice. And then defensively, I mean, hey, we'll double check on deadline day if someone like Petrangelo's on the trade block to help us out value-wise. But even then, we're going to kind of have to hope that a team like St. Louis makes a different move. So we were already the top team in our division. We add Conor McDavid. Now, granted, we've lost 2 games in a row. So that always kind of makes you nervous, but we'll see what happens here. We are losing more games with Conor McDavid. I don't like it at all. We're a week out from deadline day, and we are still cruising, though, atop of this division, which I am very, 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 very good with what we're doing here. Yeah, 37, 19, and 6. We have a at least 8-point lead on the division. I'll take a quick look just to see if something works out value-wise, but then again, cap-wise, we know we're right up against it. It doesn't show it that way, but apparently, with the cap, we're right up against it. So I think we're just going to move forward. This team has been good the whole time. Like I said, I have concerns over our lack of defensive depth, but I'm hoping that this offense that was already doing very, very well can get the job done. If not, then I mean, hey, what are you going to do? Like I said, it was an offense that was already getting the job done. We add Conor frickin' McDavid. My one regret is that Jason Robertson is still there, and we didn't use him to go out and get anybody, but it wasn't for a lack of trying. We weren't going to be able to get McDavid on retained salary. That deal barely went through as it was. So, I mean, you could argue. You could argue, though, had we added in Robertson and tried to 50% McDavid's salary, it might have worked. We do end up winning the division title. We'll see. I think that's going to go down as the mistake, if anything, is that we didn't 50% McDavid's salary, which would have allowed us to maybe go out and get somebody else using first-round picks, but that's really all we would have been able to use was the first-round picks stacked up to make something happen. Regardless, we are the top team in the Central Division. We will be taking on the Edmonton Oilers, who still made the playoffs, despite Conor McDavid being traded away. As the New York Rangers, top of the division, and the Bruins, top team in the league. We were 6th. Look at Vancouver in 5th, by the way. The New York Rangers in 4th, for God's sake. San Jose, the worst team in the league. Conor McDavid led our team in points. No real surprise there. How did he do once he was acquired? 32 points in 32 games. Yeah, that's pretty good. He had Ben and Pavelski on the top line without McDavid, both scoring 86. It drops off from there, though. Radulov and Sagan were okay. Hintz on 52 points. So like I said, I think it's probably for the best to have Conor McDavid on the second line with Radulov and Sagan, as crazy as that is. Perry on 46 points. Janmark on 45 on the fourth line, for God's sakes. He does have power play time, but still. I mean, this team is looking good. This team is looking very, very good. We have depth scoring. We have elite offensive talent, 2 elite offensive defensemen. And if Ben Bishop can play like that, we should be good to go. So with that, it's playoff time. Let's get down to business here. Again, we know it's going to be Edmonton in the first round. I do want to see what their lineups happen to look like at this point. So it's Neil, Draisaitl, Cassian, Athanasiou, Nuge, Chason, Ennis, Shane, Kyra, Yamamoto, Gaten Haas, and Archibald. Defense is Russell Clefbaum, Nurse Larson, Bear, Benning. And it's Koskinen as the starter. No real surprise there. So we're going to menu sim this unless it's an elimination game. We take game 1 by the score of 3-1. Game 2 is a nice little 4-1 win. We're rolling so far. Game 3 is an overtime loss, 3-2. See how game 4 goes. Home team is yet to lose. We do win 4-1. A 3-1 series lead for the Dallas Stars. Game 5 done and dusted. We're moving on to round 2. Jamie Benn, 7 points in that first round, continuing to play as he did, at the level he did in the regular season. Corey Perry, by the way, Joe Pavelski. This team's looking damn good. Damn good indeed. Defensively, yeah, Klingberg and Heiskanen, and even Jamie Alexiak was a +10 in that series. That's insane. And then Ben Bishop rocking a 944. Very, very good indeed. Sat here and contemplated all the other moves that we could potentially make using Jason Robertson. We had a good team to begin with. We added Conor frickin' McDavid. We might not need anything else to go all the way here. We'll see what happens. It is Colorado next, as it should be. Let's take a look at how the Avs are lining up at this stage. It is Burakovsky, McKinnon, Rantanen, Landeskog, Kadri, Nemesnikov, Nieto, Comfort, Nichushkin, Calvert, Jost, and Wilson. Defense is Byram, Makar, Girard, Cole, Hamonic, and Johnson. So they ended up picking up Travis Hamonic. Goaltender Philip Grubauer, rocking a 926. Donskoy, Zadorov, and Graves as healthy scratches. Let's do this. Let's see how game 1 goes for us. Can we continue this good momentum? No, we can't. We get pooped on 5-1. Game 2, we get pooped on 6-1. We have been outscored 11-2 so far. Game 3, we do win 6-3. Home team is yet to win. Game 4, we lose 3-1. Our backs are against the wall. Out of nowhere, a healthy Avalanche team is kicking the hell out of us here, and we're facing elimination here in game 5. Let's see what happens. First period, down 2-1. Sagan gets the opener. Comfer and Kadri score. Second period, that's much better. Janmark, Heiskanen, and Gurianov. And in the third period, we add 3 more. McDavid, Janmark, and Cogliano. 7-2 is the final. We are going back to Colorado for Game 6. So a much better performance there. One that we desperately needed to see. So Game 6, we'll obviously leave the team the same. Let's see how we can do. First period, we give up the opening goal. Mikko Rantanen on a power play from a horrible angle. Second period, we're down by 1. Comfer and Nieto made it 3-0. Radulov and Sekera get us back into it, but as it stands, we're getting bounced unless we tie this one up. Power play goes to waste for the Avs. Are these Dallas Stars going to fall short? As insane as that is, we made 1 addition, but it was Conor frickin' McDavid. Are the Dallas Stars going to get bounced? The answer is yes. Colorado wins in 6. An amazing run in the regular season. We add Conor frickin' McDavid, and we lose to the Avalanche in 6. I don't think I ever want to hear again about, like, oh, you should go get McDavid, you should get Kane, and everything will be fine. No, it won't be. Because in this sim, your team can still frickin' choke